James, you talk a lot about the importance of running your law office efficiently as a business, even going so far as to say you're a lawyer by trade and a businessman by nature. Where did your knowledge and appreciation for the business side of things come from?
Well, my dad was in an international business. He was a bit of a role model for me. So I think I always saw uh, the business values being exemplified by him. And so that it just felt like that was an important uh, career. And so when I found myself going to law school, I kind of went by default. I didn't know what I was going to do with a law degree. I just couldn't figure out what to do. And I went there almost like a fish out of water. And I think it was just a matter of time before I think I was able to pull in the genetics of a business person into my life and add it to the practice of law, which I think has served us pretty well.
Absolutely. So you got kind of that immersion from home and yeah, and we're just entrepreneur by nature.
Yeah.
You know, similarly, you implement a lot of technological solutions to the inefficiencies in your work. You know, what's your background in tech? You know, when did you see it being a valuable resource for your business? Where did that come from?
Well, I can't say that I'm much of a techie. They laugh at me because I still use the old legal pad, and you know I had to learn to type late in life, so I can't take a lot of credit for being a tech visionary. But I surrounded myself with people who I think liked working in a law firm that was run with business principles, and that included some people who very much got the importance of tech, and I think I got out of their way and let them make suggestions and incorporate the technology into our law practice. And I could obviously see that it was working and it served us well. So I got behind it because key people in our firm, especially Eric Sanchez, who's from the Silicon Valley and has sort of been my right-hand person for 20 years, led us there.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that the data, the tech, you know, gives you so many valuable insights. And I know we're going to jump in and we're going to talk about some of that technology that you use coming up. But, you know, I kind of want to jump over to, you know, you're known around the Carolinas for your TV ads that have starred Robert Vaughn, Eric Pierpoint, and Judge Joe Brown. You know, tell me the story of how those started and how they evolved into a key part of your business strategy.
Well, I think when I decided I was going to be a personal injury attorney, it seemed to me that the big time was going to be people who were on TV. That seemed to be how you got a lot of cases, how you got some notoriety. So I think I was always interested in going in that direction. So when I had early in my career a big result, big settlement, I decided to plow that money into a TV campaign. And I thought that the Market Masters campaign, which is the one that we used, was the most innovative. I liked it because I thought it looked professional, really well polished, and frankly, I didn't have to be on the ads myself. I think that would have been. I'm not that great of an actor, and it would have. I wouldn't want to be bothered in restaurants by people, having seen my face on TV. So it's allowed me to live a life of an anonymity and yet take advantage of the benefits of their really professional, polished campaigns. And so we started that back over 20 years ago, and it's the commercials kind of were an immediate hit, took off, built us some notoriety, and then of course that led to the necessity of really getting good at running our law firm as a business, because suddenly we're dealing with questions of scale, lots of cases, and having to have good technology. So by going on TV, I don't know that I played it all out in my head at the time, but that led to lots of cases, and thus led to the need to become really effective at running operations in a strong business-like manner.
Yeah, and I've got a couple follow-up questions on there. So I'm more of a digital marketing guy, and many of our clients do TV. And I've always wondered, you know, what are some of the foundational recommendations when it comes to TV in terms of, you know, minimum budget to even consider it, just some of the basics. And I have always heard you gotta advertise during the news and sports because that's where people watch live TV. You know, what are just some general advice to those looking to maybe do TV in today's time period?
Well, it's still an effective medium. We've been doing it for a long time. I'd say the amount that you need to spend depends on the size of the market. Obviously, we like being in the top 3 to 5 positions in the market because if you're pretty far down the list, you just don't get enough visibility, and your message is drowned out. And so I think that to be effective, you have to sort of, they say, go big or go home, and be a strong player there. I'm a big believer. I think TV is a direct response vehicle. For at least for us, we're looking for people who have been hurt. Most people, if they've never thought about who their lawyer is going to be, if they happen to get involved in a serious wreck and need a lawyer, a lot of people have not thought who that person's going to be in advance. And
Right.
so what we want to do is catch people in the moment when they're in need. And we do that by running lots of daytime TV commercials. Now, there's other schools of thought, which is go to more of a branding approach and run commercials different times of day, evening news. I have found that less cost effective. For direct response, I'm a big believer in just running on the air broadcast commercials during the day in heavy frequency. That's a formula that's expensive, but it does work, and I think it leads to, if you can afford to do it, it can lead to a good number of cases on an cost-effective basis. The problem is, if you don't have that kind of money to spend, and you can't be in the top echelon in TV spend in a market, well, then you've got to go and look into other places where you can still get cases, but it's not as big of a overall budget commitment. So that's, and I will say that, of course, we are living in an era of a gradual erosion of of broadcast TV, with
Right.
cord cutters, streaming devices, digital, more, there are lots of other ways of getting cases, which are becoming increasingly important. I still think TV works well, but play it out 10, 20 years, probably much less so.
Yeah, and that's interesting. I've always heard of TV as a branding play. I've never really heard of it as a direct response, but play. And I think maybe those are some of the individuals that are less experienced in the medium compared to yourself, and you can see the true impact of advertising during the day. And I myself, even though we do SEO, I'm an omni-channel, multi-channel approach to advertising. I think it's important to power that overall flywheel, whether it's the top of funnel strategy or middle or bottom. I think they all kind of complement each other. And if you're seeing multiple times, you have a greater likelihood of converting that lead.
Yeah. Well, I will say TV is also a branding play. You're wanting to get people, inculcate your name in there. But our belief is they are likely to call you if they remember, they already know the brand, and then they see the ad when they're in a time of need and when they're thinking about what should we do. That's my belief.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I see too, just from an SEO perspective, that, if your brand's stronger, even if you're not ranking number one, you may capture the click through just because they recognize the brand, or Google ads, or local SEO, any of those mediums and those channels.
Yeah.
So as your practice grew, your priorities shifted dramatically. In 97, when you're starting out, you were the only lawyer, and you're kind of the jack of all trades, wearing multiple hats, handling all the legal cases. In 2021, your firm now employs, 50 plus lawyers. How do you balance your responsibilities as a lawyer and as the head of your firm?
Well, I rarely work on a case now anymore. I can't say I miss it. I did enjoy it for a while. I value the craft of lawyering, and I went to Duke Law School, so I certainly appreciate quality legal work. I just prefer not to have to do it. I guess at this stage, with 200 and plus people around me, I get to pick what I feel like I'm best at, what I enjoy, what my strengths are, and hopefully I have a bunch of really good people who can do what I don't want to do and do it really well. So I've just figured out what gives me energy, what motivates me, and I figure I'm going to do that, and I'm going to hire really good people, really strong at all the rest. And so I enjoy cheering our attorneys on. I enjoy occasionally helping strategize, but I don't miss spending hours pouring through medical records, getting ready for a deposition.
I love that. So what you're doing now brings energy to you. I heard the saying recently that procrastination is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a sign that maybe you shouldn't be doing it and someone else should be doing it. And I thought that was really interesting. And so I guess it's surrounding your people with those that have a skill set that bring energy in their particular function. Maybe you don't want to work a case all the way through now today, but I'm sure you have those people that just love that.
Yeah, and I think a real point of emphasis for us is creating a culture where we attract people who are not only good at what they do, but share common values. And it's my experience that if we have a strong culture, a well-defined culture, and we attract people who fit in that culture, they tend to be happy and productive, and thus more likely to stick around. So I think that it becomes a very closely tied to business principles, is having a strong culture. And I think I see myself as that being one of my primary responsibilities, is defining the culture and then enforcing it and cheering it on and rewarding people for acting appropriately. So I think that gives me great joy and satisfaction. I think there's a huge payoff. And again, when you have a couple hundred people working for you, you can't be replacing too many. You don't want to lose any superstars. You want to be replacing people too often, or it's just going to be impossible to manage. So having a strong culture is really a key to cohesion.
I love that. And I didn't have this prep, but are there certain things that you look for? Are you involved in maybe the final hiring stage? Do you do personality assessments to see if they fit within a particular, there's DISC and predictive index and strength finders? What are some of those things that you do to see, when you're going to hire someone new, if they're going to be the right fit?
We've used some of those profiles in the past with varying degrees of success. A lot depends on the position. The thing that we have done is we've actually written a book I call it the JSF Way. It's got 24 behaviors from pay attention to detail that I think defines the model employee. And so we have defined this culture, and then we talk about it all the time, and we try to hire based on it. So we'll send prospective employees this a PDF of these behaviors, and ask which of them resonates. So I guess rather than do a personality test, maybe through behavioral questions and otherwise, our HR department and all of our interviewers are screening to see not only do people have the technical ability to be good at what they do, but do they fit in this mold? Are they one of our tribe? And I think by having our behaviors, which I found values to be too amorphous and ambiguous. What does quality mean, or professionalism? I don't know. But by defining these values in terms of behaviors, it's pretty easy to recognize if somebody is a good fit or not. And so that's more than anything, I think, what we look for in our interviewing process. I myself will do some interviews, but that tends to be for a high level position. I'm a big believer in having at least 2 people in on final interviews, so to minimize the we all make mistakes and we all have biases, and sometimes we can be swayed by just someone we like. I think having at least 2 people in the room for final decisions maybe reduces the risk of bias and making an error that way. Anyway, that's and knowing what we're looking for in terms of our behaviors are the 2 things that I think are help us in our hiring process.
I love all of that, and I would absolutely love to see that book and the PDF of those.
Send you one.
Yeah, and what's always kind of irked me, and you kind of touched on it, are those core values that everyone's talking about, and they'll say, "Well, my core value is team player," and I'm like, "Well, that's table stakes, right? If you're not a team player, you're probably not going to work here." Mm-hmm. Or quality, like you said, if you're not doing quality work, that's table stakes. Or they'll do an aspirational one where they're striving for something, but that's not what you actually embody. It's more aspirational. So that's interesting that you have these principles and these behaviors that you look for. And I really love that approach. I think that's super smart.
Thanks, Chris.
And I want to jump back over to marketing a little bit, just a little bit more. And specifically, I wanted to ask you about direct mail because it's significantly different than most other states. In your state, you can use it as a marketing tactic. And maybe just can you speak to that just overall as a marketing strategy?
Yeah, we use it and like it very much. As you mentioned, it's not available for lawyers in all jurisdictions. Some places, the public records are redacted so that you can't get the information. Others, there are waiting lists, ethical requirements that practically make it impossible. But in our state, North Carolina, it is permissible, and we've used it aggressively. We get some of our best cases from direct mail. We have dozens of different pieces that we send out to people depending on what type of injury they may have suffered, what kind of accident they've been in. We will FedEx people a huge package with pages and pages of information for if we think it's a high quality case or potentially a high value case. So we have a whole bunch of different packages that we will send to people depending on the situation they're in, try to customize it as much as possible. What I like doing is A/B testing. We'll try a different creative approach to a piece and send it to half the people over time, and then see which of our two pieces tends to get the best response. It's fun to constantly iterate and create more impactful pieces. And as you mentioned earlier, a lot of marketing is synergistic. So if we're well branded on TV, people are going to be more likely to search for us on the web, and they're also more likely to respond to our direct mail packages. So I like it very much. I think it's a great way of getting cases, and if you put a lot of time and energy into it, it can have great dividends.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love the hunting aspect of it and not just trying to get everything inbound where you can actually pursue the leads. The other follow-up question I have on it is, due to the pandemic last year, where a lot more people were working from home, and did you find it actually more effective during the pandemic because people weren't at the office, or well, I guess everyone comes back home. I'm just seeing how was direct mail impacted during this time.
It remained effective. The biggest downfall for us during the pandemic was we're in North Carolina. We were in a state of lockdown, fairly serious restrictions for 2.5 months or so when the pandemic first broke last year. So there are fewer people driving. Fortunately for society, but unfortunately for our business, there were fewer wrecks. And so that impacted. And so then there are fewer direct mail pieces that we were able to send. After a while, things got a little more relaxed. Human beings wanted to circulate and do things. So the auto traffic has crept back up, not quite to previous levels, but close. And so that's been overall good for business, and direct mail has remained as effective as ever in the pandemic. I don't know that the pandemic has caused more people to respond to direct mail versus internet or TV, but the supply of accidents went down, which threw off our numbers a little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense. And shifting over, you have perhaps one of the most famous cases, a class action lawsuit for about 18,000 African American farmers who were discriminated against by the USDA. You and your team ended up winning 1.25 billion for that case. How did marketing and outreach play a role in that outcome? And then, how could this approach change the landscape for class action suits?
Well, that case, it sort of seems to me that the work that you do a good job at it, it sort of prepares you, though you may not be aware of it, for another challenge. So the fact that we had run a high volume operation, advertised well, had developed all these systems and ways of processing large numbers of cases had sort of prepared us for this opportunity, and it led someone to approach us with the chance to get involved in this black farmers discrimination litigation fairly early on. So we we got involved, took a risk, a real risk that, because there was no guarantee that a law would be passed that would allow these claimants to go forward with their claims. But we decided we were going to go for it because the cause seemed so noble. The farmers had really been discriminated, treated poorly by their government, our government, for many years, and it was an opportunity to sort of prove ourselves on a national stage and really stretch ourselves and try to take on something bigger than we've ever done before and be part of a historic case. So for those reasons, we got into the case. It called upon our logistics skills in organizing things. We had, there were 18,000 people who we ended up helping with other firms in the claims process, but there were 90,000 potential claimants out there. So there was a ton of people that we had to communicate with, put in a database, keep abreast of developments in the case. So it caused Eric Sanchez, who again is my right-hand person, sort of the technology guy at our firm, he had to figure out how to manage this case, manage this beast, and to communicate effectively with all these people. And so he drew the lessons that we had learned over the years in doing that, and it actually caused him to come up with some ideas for new software that would enable us to do even better after that case resolved. I think he saw the limitations of our existing software and had to sort of make it work with all sorts of workarounds and teaching himself access programming. It was just a whole Herculean task that he had to take on, and it made him think when that was over with, he could build something better for just to run our law firm with on software.
So was that the discovery of GrowPath? Is that how it kind of formed into its own entity?
Yeah, that was the inspiration for GrowPath. He thought, coming out of it, we're done. We got this case behind us. I found it, this is Eric saying, speaking, I found it frustrating to have to use this software that really didn't work optimally. He surveyed the market to see if there was something out there that we thought would be better. He thought, no, we really want to build something that will work for all of our needs. And so we gave him a budget and a team of developers, and they built this GrowPath software just for our firm, just so that we could run better. And after a couple of years, we launched. We switched over. We went over the course of a weekend. We moved all our data into GrowPath. We started using it, and we found that as we proceeded, people at our law firm liked it. Their work was more efficient, more effective. I liked it because I could see that our average case ages were coming down because we were able to spot bottlenecks very easily. We were able to work more efficiently and effectively. And so we saw case values going up or holding, and velocity or case resolution speed going down significantly. And so I was really pleased with it. I had some employees say, if you took away GrowPath, it'd break my heart. So we found that we thought we had a good thing, and so that led us later on to open it up and market it to other personal injury law firms as well.
That's incredible, and I have a couple follow-up questions there. So identifying the bottlenecks with the software would help with your throughput, the results. Can you speak to that's a lot different than other case management software. So, what other pain points does GrowPath address that maybe, traditional generic CRMs or intake software, case management software don't?
Well, I'll speak for myself. What I like is running the firm. We have thousands of cases. I want to be able to look at a glance and see what each person who's got case responsibility is doing, what's overdue. We have matter trackers that we're able to customize and set up, so it's very easy to see who's doing what, or more importantly, who's got a lot of things backed up, and I can dive into the cases and see why. So I like that. I also like reporting because I'm able to get email alerts whenever a case of a particular magnitude comes in, or an intake comes in, and I'm able to be alerted to it. So there are just an unbelievable amount of reports that I can customize and get delivered to me via email or any way I prefer. I don't like looking at dashboards personally, so I prefer PDFs and emails sent to me. So that's how I like to see my data, and so I get it sent to me the way I like it. It's I like lawyers like they can dictate into it with an Chrome extension, and they don't, so it makes them more efficient. Instead of having to type out all the notes. If they want to type it, they can. But for a lot of people, it's much easier just to dictate into the software. It's good stuff. It's cool. We really, we like it. We use it ourselves. It's fun because Eric, the guy who started GrowPath, he's also still involved in our law firm operations. So he's constantly improving the product based on, we have our own Skunkworks project, which is our law firm, right? We see things that we can do more efficiently and better. So he's constantly developing the software. We don't have to wait on a bunch of people in the foreign country or, to put us in their queue and respond to our development requests. We're able to move really quickly. And so anyway, it's been really great. I think the last thing I'll say is that I've really seen the benefit of is during the pandemic, where we had to deploy so much of our workforce remotely. Having cloud-based software certainly is an advantage, but GrowPath was super helpful, and here's why. We have in it a productivity tool, which allows us to measure in each paralegal, attorney, whoever we want to measure, and measure their performance. And what we do is we measure their performance against themselves in many instances. And so we were able to see what they would do pre-pandemic. And then after the pandemic, when we switched to, when they're working from home, we could go in and say, well, here's what they did in the last 2 months per day, how many emails, how much screen time, all sorts of stuff. And we were able to establish that as a baseline and then compare it with what they were doing from home. And that gave me a lot of confidence. There's some people we saw who were clearly goofing off. They were spending they were not doing much for a few hours. Their productivity was off. We were able to identify that, get rid of them. As a law firm owner and manager with hundreds of people, and especially if you deploy remotely, tremendous peace of mind and managerial power by knowing who's being naughty and who's being nice. And we found 95% of our employees were able to work effectively and productively from home. But I was sure glad to be able to measure that and validate it, as opposed to just take someone's word for it, and to find the people who weren't working out so well and either making them come back to the office or terminating them. So that, again, that was just another benefit of GrowPath that you asked.
Well, I absolutely love that, because I think that most remote companies will just look at utilization and time tracking. And I really feel that that's flawed, because one person could be more efficient than another person. I like the fact that you're looking at the outcomes and the screen time and the actions that they're taking, just significantly more valuable. And I can imagine that when you went to remote, when the pandemic hit, that you guys were set up in an advantageous way, just having that already established.
Yeah. And the key thing is anything that it's being done in the software, which for our workers working on the cases, that's most everything can be measured, and that we can design that as the basis of our productivity measures. So the productivity measures are real based on what we value as important in terms of interaction with the software application.
I love that. And, you talk a lot about data and running a data-driven business, just top level, what are some of the metrics that personal injury lawyers should pay attention to?
I'm a big believer in analyzing the fees per month. A lot of times lawyers will look at, on a particular case, how much the fee was going to be, which is a very, important measure. You want to compare your marketing costs versus your revenue. So the return on investment is an important analysis. But I like to go a little farther and also figure out how long it took to get that result. So if I can get a $2,000 fee in 6 months, that may be better than a $3,000 fee in 12 months, especially if I'm able to replace that $2,000 fee with another one after 6 months. So it's not just the amount of the fee, but it's the velocity that I like to measure. So I look for practice areas where our fee per month hits a certain level, and when the fee per month dips below a certain level, I think, well, those are cases that are not worth taking on anymore. So that's, I think I emphasize those fees per month more than some other law firm leaders. I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah, and I'm going to slightly get this off here, so I apologize to anyone listening. But so that reminds me of Jay Abraham. He always talks about, the three ways of generating more revenue. One, you sell more, or you increase your fees, and then the third one that he talks about is velocity, is more quickly. And
I think, Chris, I would posit that amongst attorneys and law firms, the velocity is completely underappreciated, and it's powerful. The effect can be really powerful if you could, and clients love it. They love getting their, we're not compromising the value of the case. We're looking at reducing waste or delays that add nothing to the value of the case. Time on desk, where the file's just sitting on the desk, not advancing. And so without compromising the value of the case, if we can shave 2 or 3 months off of it versus our competitors, our clients are going to be ecstatic and satisfied. It matters a lot to our clients, and I think it should matter a lot to us. The other thing that we think about a lot is trying to cultivate a client experience that is sure to lead to referrals. That's another great way of building a business, right? Is generating a strong army of satisfied people who are willing to refer cases to you. And I think we've thought about ways over the years to